All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Recap Backlash 2024 edition. I am Michael D'Angelo. All by my lonesome this week was my partner in crime, Mr. Big D, Darrell Ortiz. He's off sailing the high seas, having a good time on vacation with the family, getting some well-deserved R&R. So, Big D, we miss you. We'll see you next week. In the meantime, you all are just stuck with me. So, we're going to talk about WWE Backlash Premium Live event. Came to us from Lyon, France this year. First thing that I will say, just to kick things off for this show, boy, is the crowd in Lyon, France was into this show from start to finish, which was really fun to see. It's always great to see when you got a hot crowd. They were excited the whole time. They were chanting consistently throughout every single match throughout the show from start to finish. You know, usually it's like the first couple of matches are really intense and then it tends to die down. It's not what happened at all. They were into it throughout the whole show, which was amazing. Singing everyone's theme songs word for word. It was really cool to see. So I hope they do more events out there. The fans were awesome, and it really added to the whole atmosphere. So I wanted to kick off with that. But we will start off with the first match, which was Kevin Owens and Randy Orton taking on the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa and Tama Tonga. So this one had just been billed as a standard tag match. As it kicked off, from before the bell even rung, everybody was brawling on the outside. You had officials, you had referees, and it all got out of control. And then Nick Aldis walked out before it even started and said, you know, hey, if you guys want to act all crazy, essentially, it's a street fight now. And then it just transitioned into a street fight. So this was actually a great way to start off the event because they went full-blown hardcore match, essentially. You had chairs, you had kendo sticks, tables, trash cans. There was a lot of really great spots in this one. Very brutal matchup to start out. Everybody looked good. It was really, really great. Probably the spot of the night for this one was Kevin Owens hit that top rope brainbuster. You know, when someone tries to go up and get him, and then he reverses him into the brainbuster. Hit it on Tama Tonga through a setup of 4 chairs, which looked really brutal. I'm sure it was. It was pretty intense. So the twist on this one, and I was kind of wondering that, for me, it was obviously the Bloodline wasn't going to lose. Like, they couldn't have them lose traction that quickly. Obviously with Solo taking it over. You're not going to have Randy Orton take the pin. Kevin Owens, of course, ended up taking the pin in this one, as I was thinking. And then we saw the debut of Tama Tonga's brother, who popped up at the end when it looked like Kevin Owens and Randy Orton were going to get the win. He popped up, pulled the referee out of the ring for the pinfall, and now he is a part of the Bloodline, apparently. And this, I'll say, is more of Big D being right. So Big D, I know you're out there. We've been talking about this for weeks and weeks. And Big D specifically has been talking about there's so many family members in the Bloodline that could be brought in and could be reintroduced and introduced to the WWE audience. And he's been speculating about, are we going to see this kind of splintered Bloodline versus Bloodline storyline that's going to progress later? Well, this certainly looks like the continuation of that. Bloodline has a new member in Tama Tonga's brother, and we'll see how this all pans out. Paul Heyman, of course, has looked dejected throughout and then continued to do so, looked more confused by everything that was going on. And they continue to grow. They did pick up the win. Again, got the pinfall over KO and stood tall with Paul Heyman looking hesitant the whole time. Other thing, a quick note to mention here as far as the Bloodline storyline goes, on SmackDown prior to this, the night before, we did have Paul Heyman do a little bit of a reveal where he said that he actually hadn't been in touch with Roman Reigns since WrestleMania, that the Roman Reigns withholding himself from the WWE draft, it wasn't Roman, it was Paul Heyman who made that decision. So the plot thickens a little bit as well. Sounds like Roman's been completely out of pocket. And this does feel more to me like we're looking at an eventual face turn for Roman Reigns to take on the Bloodline, to come back, reestablish order. That seems like the logical progression if they were to go into this Bloodline versus Bloodline storyline. Wonder how much Jimmy and Jay will end up factoring to this as well. right before Jey Uso's title match, which I believe came up next after this. He ran into the bloodline in the back, and Paul kind of looked at him and shook his head. So, and of course, we still haven't seen Jimmy Uso since he left the bloodline. So, I feel like this is the continuation of, do you see the Usos and Roman Reigns coming together as a face team? I don't know. We'll see. But the bloodline was victorious tonight and got a new member. Next up, actually, next up wasn't that one. Next up was Bayley versus Tiffany Stratton versus Naomi. So it was the triple threat for the WWE Women's Championship. Correction on that. This match was really good as well. Pretty back and forth. Lots of great spots that made everyone look good. Tiffany Stratton looked really excellent. And this one was a bit by the numbers in terms of what you expected. So WrestleMania. And you knew Naomi was going to probably be the one to take the pin, which is what happened. Yeah, Naomi got pinned by Bayley. The ending of this one was a little abrupt and a little strange, where Naomi hit Bayley with a step up enziguri, and then she kind of rolled her up for a pin, and then Bayley did one of those like reversal roll up counters and got her. Like, it was a little surprising the way it happened, just like 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Oh, she got her. And so the match felt like it ended a little oddly and a little abruptly and a little anticlimactic. But Bayley's victorious as predicted. Good, solid overall match. I was just a little surprised by the ending because it felt anticlimactic, but it was great. Crowd was into it. Crowd was into everything this evening. So that one was really solid. Next up after that, correction, is Jey Uso versus Damian Priest. So this one was really good, and I think it definitely added to the dynamic of, at least from what I expect to be, a Damian Priest face turn at some point. And so Damian had kind of doubled down about heading into this, that he doesn't need the Judgment Day's help, and he kind of admonished Finn Balor and JD McDonough about that a few times. And then we saw during this matchup, JD popped up to try to help Damian, and then Damian again doubled down on it. Hey, what are you doing out here? I don't need your help. He nearly caused a distraction that cost Damian Priest the match, and then because Damian ended up eating a super kick. They both ate super kicks. And then the match continued. And then as the match progressed, Finn Balor did come out and then cause an effective distraction that Damian Priest didn't actually end up seeing it. So he caused a distraction that did help Damian Priest. He was able to hit the South of Heaven on Jey Uso. Jey Uso kicked out of it. There was a lot of kicking out of finishers too, which I wanted to mention. In this one, they had super kicks, the Uso splash, the Razor's Edge, and then the South of Heaven all got kicked out of during this matchup. Not a huge fan of that many finishers being kicked out of, or at least finishers and signature moves. But it was really good. There was a moment, you knew Damian Priest wasn't going to lose, but they did a good job towards the end where Jey hit multiple super kicks, then a spear, then the Uso splash, and it looked like it was going to be over, and it would have been over, but they were close to the ropes, and JD McDonough grabbed Damian Priest's foot and actually put it on the bottom rope and did save him. So he saved him again. So you had two effective interferences that Damian Priest didn't see. He didn't see either one of them. Damian Priest did eventually hit the South of Heaven on the Jey from the second rope. So it was an elevated South of Heaven from the second rope. Did retain. After he won, you had JD and Finn jump in the ring and start just piling on Jey. And then Damian Priest intervened, very aggressively pulled them off, pushed them. What are you guys doing? He's done. He's had enough. Definitely face stuff. And there was confusion from JD and from Finn Balor there. And he was like, you stand here, you stand here. And they put their hands up and did their thing. So this is definitely, it was an uncomfortable moment for the Judgment Day at the end. There was certainly some confusion. They weren't on the same page, which certainly points towards a Damian Priest face turn. And I kind of felt like they were doing this since WrestleMania, because we saw a lot of promo packages with Damian Priest where they were showing his life growing up, the progression in his career, his heritage, and kind of talking about all that he's done and worked to accomplish. And it's packaged very much as a face would be, not what you would do for a heel. So this certainly, while he's heelish and kind of even in the back and forth with Jey Uso leading up to promote this match, there was mutual respect, but he was still kind of picking on him a little bit. But it was definitely a different tone. This, where he was trying to essentially save and defend Jey Uso from getting beat down afterwards. certainly points to that, points to the eventual breakup and eventual face turn for Damian Priest. But all good stuff here, but pretty predictable. You knew he wasn't going to lose his title either this quickly off of WrestleMania. Um, Next up was the only match that I felt that there was a possibility, and I strongly felt that this is what they were going to do. The only title change you would see: Kabuki Warriors versus Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. I liked this one. I mean, it was not. It didn't. It wasn't flawless. Okay, it's the first thing that I will say. It certainly wasn't, but I enjoyed it. Okay, I think I've heard more criticism about this matchup than anything else from Backlash. I liked it. I liked the dynamic of, you really do have the display of the physicality and the power of Cargill and Belair as a tag team. And then they've been billed as this powerhouse potential team that could be unstoppable. They really steered into that with this one. Kabuki Warriors, meanwhile, are great, and they had chances to shine as well. So it was a real nice dynamic here of, you have the team that's very athletically gifted and very physically talented and very imposing versus the team that's just a great tag team with two very, very skilled competitors. And so you would have times where Bianca and Jade would get into the match and they would just be running over everybody and beating everybody down. And then that would get countered by Asuka and Kairi Sane really working well together. And they would isolate. There was a long section of the match where they isolated Bianca Belair very effectively, kind of kept her away from Jade Cargill, had to get tagged, using double team moves to really effectively take her down. When they finally got the hot tag for Jade and she came in, did this great crossbody off of the top rope, took them both out, both Asuka and Kairi Sane. But then eventually they were able to use the teamwork, use the effective tag team wrestling to be able to get the upper hand on her as well. So it was nice. It was a nice dynamic. And yeah, individually, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are incredibly powerful and incredibly athletic. But you can counter that with great tag team wrestling. So very back and forth. There were some sloppy spots. There were some after the beginning of the match and kind of working towards the end. There was some difficulties there, but I enjoyed it. Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair did end up winning this one, obviously. The ending was really impressive. So if you have not seen this one, and this is where I think it really plays into the athletic ability and the strength of Jade Cargill. There was a moment where Kairi Sane leaped off the top rope and Jade caught her and then did like 4 or 5 toss-up, transition, readjustments of her body without putting her down on the ground, just all up in the air and moving around to get her in position for the Jaded and hit her with the Jaded. It was very physically impressive when you see it. Best spot of the night by far. And then right after that, she hit her with the Jaded, and then Bianca Belair picked up Asuka and hit the KOD on top of Kairi Sane, and then got the pinfall. They're your new tag team champions. The finish was absolutely brilliant, not without its flaws, but I like this, and I think this was the right thing to do here. It made sense. And this was the only title that really had a chance of changing hands. So not surprising at all. I love the Kabuki Warriors, but I get what they're doing here. They got to continue to build up Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. So this makes sense to me. I feel like you got to eventually build them to a rivalry with each other, which hopefully we'll see that as they continue in their this new tag team title reign. Maybe we can see some seeds of rivalry and competition so between them. That'll eventually build for a matchup for those two against each other. I think that would be absolutely brilliant. But I liked it. Good match, not flawless, but did what it needed to do. And then it was main event time. This was a short. There weren't that many matches. This is a pretty short event. And that was Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles. So this is one that I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. Obviously, Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles are both incredibly talented. You've got AJ Styles looking beefy as ever, but still able to hit all of his great spots. Crowd, of course, was absolutely bananas into this one, as they should have been, and they maintained that energy throughout, which also, again, really added to it. The match felt like it started out, it had more of a kind of a plodding, slower, more deliberate pace to begin. And it was still good. It was just kind of took its time to work its way up. I want to say it was close to half an hour, probably close to 30 minutes total time. I think for me, the thing that was lacking in this matchup It was probably, and it's a silly complaint. There wasn't really any real suspense of what was going to happen here. Like, you knew Cody Rhodes was going to win. There was no way that he was going to lose this quickly off of WrestleMania. He just finished the story. It's been 3 weeks. He wasn't going to lose the title. So there wasn't suspense about the outcome. So you never felt like he was in any real danger. They did all their greatest hits. You had AJ Styles. Well, Cody Rhodes hit AJ Styles with a powerbomb through in the announce table, which was cool. AJ hit that springboard 450 splash that he's done a million times. It was really great. There was a moment where AJ hit the burning hammer on Cody and then immediately went for the pinfall, and then Cody immediately kicked out. It was a very Hulk Hogan moment where he kicked out like at one and then started like hulking up a little bit. I wasn't sure about that one. I'm like, okay, like I never liked it when Hulk Hogan did it. But you did see all their greatest hits. It was fun. It was exciting. Cody ended up hitting the Cody Cutter later, leaping off the second rope to do it. And then he did hit the Crossroads for the win. It was a solid main event. It was good. For me, I think it lived up to the billing. I just feel like there wasn't really anything on the line. Like, you just knew he's not going to lose here. It was a clean win, which is nice too. No shenanigans. But yeah, that was the main event to close out the show. Crowd loved it. Crowd was into absolutely everything. The crowd loved everything, and they were absolutely great. Coming off WrestleMania, I think Backlash has always felt like it's a bit of an afterthought because you're 3 weeks removed from the biggest event of the year in wrestling. And we think about now you're 3 weeks removed probably from the biggest WrestleMania of all time. It always feels like an afterthought. This one, I mean, it lived up to the expectations in the sense that you knew there wasn't going to be any shocking title changes. Obviously, Kabuki Warriors dropped titles to Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, but that was kind of obvious and kind of expected. Everybody else retained, which is they should be. But it was still a solid, fun, tight 3 hour show. Give it a B plus because it was what it is. It's that little lull after WrestleMania. But overall, solid show. And cheers to the crowd in Lyon, France, because they were awesome and they made it even more enjoyable. And now it's on to Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, and King of the Ring tournament. So that's going to be progressing over the next several weeks, and it's going to culminate at the end of May with the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments, respectively. So we'll be talking about those in the coming weeks with the finals coming up at the end of May. So that's it for Backlash 2024. Short and sweet. 18 minutes. You guys didn't get that much of me, so hey, congratulations to all of you. But definitely fun show. We'll be back next week. Michael D'Angelo and Big D. Daryl Ortiz will be back from vacation. Hopefully he's having a good time on the cruise. And we'll see you all then. So until next time, thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your week, and see you soon.